Imagine the devastation of losing a loved one in the most brutal way, only to have the killer walk free for decades. Nacole Smith, a 14-year-old honors student, was abducted on her way to school in Atlanta, Georgia, in 1995. For 26 years, her killer remained a ghost, evading justice while her family and community were left in agony. Welcome back to the channel, True Crime Enthusiasts. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for more gripping stories. In this episode, we're diving into the cold case of Nacole Smith, whose brutal murder shocked a quiet Georgia community. Her killer thought he had gotten away with it, but DNA technology would eventually reveal the truth. Stick with us as we explore how perseverance and science finally gave Nacole's family the answers they desperately needed. Number 1. The disappearance of Nacole Smith. On June 7, 1995, 14-year-old Nacole Smith was a bright and promising student, admired for her dedication to her studies and her love for learning. Everyone who knew her described her as an intelligent, hard-working young girl with a bright future ahead of her. However, one seemingly innocent decision that day would tragically change her family's life forever. As Nacole made her way to school, she decided to take a shortcut through a wooded area near her neighborhood, unaware that this choice would lead to a devastating outcome. Nacole never made it to school that day. Later in the afternoon, her lifeless body was found, brutally assaulted, and shot twice in the face. The discovery of her body sent shockwaves through the tight-knit community, leaving everyone in disbelief. A young girl with so much potential was now the victim of a horrifying crime. The sudden and violent disappearance of Nacole left authorities and investigators stunned. At the outset, there were no clear leads, no witnesses, and no apparent clues to explain who had taken her or why. The community was gripped by fear and confusion as the case seemed to grow colder by the day. Despite the best efforts of law enforcement, the investigation stalled and the case quickly turned cold. Nacole's tragic end would haunt her family and the community for years to come, raising numerous questions about who could commit such an act of violence against a young, innocent girl, and why. The case would remain unsolved for a long time, leaving a painful void of uncertainty and sorrow. Number 2. The investigation hits a dead end. In the early days following Nacole Smith's brutal murder, detectives worked tirelessly, scouring the wooded area where she was last seen and interviewing potential witnesses. Every possible lead was pursued, but despite their best efforts, there were no significant clues or evidence to point to a suspect. The investigation, once full of urgency and hope, slowly began to lose momentum. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, with each passing moment adding to the growing despair felt by Nacole's family and the local community. As time went on, the case seemed to stall, slipping further and further into cold case territory. Nacole's parents, especially her mother, were heartbroken but resolute. They refused to give up hope, vowing to keep the memory of their daughter alive and to never stop pushing for answers. Her mother continually pressured law enforcement, attending every meeting and speaking publicly, hoping that someone, somewhere, might come forward with a new piece of information that could finally lead to a break in the case. Despite the tireless efforts of her family and the local police, the investigation continued to hit dead ends. The killer remained a ghost, hiding in the shadows, while Nacole's family suffered in silence. Each day that passed without progress added to the profound anguish they endured, as they were left with no answers and no closure. The case, once full of potential for resolution, seemed to become a painful reminder of the unspeakable tragedy that had befallen their lives. Number 3. The breakthrough: DNA evidence. In 2004, nearly a decade after Nacole Smith's tragic murder, a breakthrough in forensic science provided a glimmer of hope. Forensic investigators were able to link DNA found at the crime scene to another unrelated assault, signaling that the same perpetrator may have been involved in multiple crimes. While this discovery was a step forward, the identity of the killer remained elusive. Despite this promising lead, the investigation stalled once again, and the case seemed to drift further into the cold case files. The killer had managed to stay in the shadows, evading capture while Nacole's family continued to mourn. For years, it seemed as though the case would remain unsolved. But in 2021, a revolutionary new approach to forensic science changed everything: forensic genealogy. This technique, which combines DNA evidence with genealogical databases, was becoming more widely used in criminal investigations, offering a fresh tool for solving cold cases. It was with this method that authorities finally made a significant breakthrough in Nacole's case. The new wave of DNA testing led investigators to Kevin Arnold, a man who had been living quietly in North Carolina. What shocked investigators was the revelation that Arnold had lived in Georgia at the time of Nacole's murder. He had quietly relocated after the crime, never once drawing suspicion, and had seemingly lived a life under the radar for years. His identity as the killer was a bombshell, as investigators now realized they were dealing with someone who had slipped through the cracks of the original investigation, living among them all this time without raising a single red flag. Number 4, the killer's death. In a heartbreaking twist, the resolution to Nacole Smith's case came too late. Kevin Arnold, the man responsible for the brutal murder that had haunted Nacole's family for over 2 decades, had passed away earlier in 2021. His death meant that he would never face justice in a courtroom, never stand trial for the heinous crime he committed. The realization that the murderer had evaded trial was a bitter pill for Nacole's family to swallow, as they had longed for the day when they could finally confront him in a court of law. Although Arnold's death meant that Nacole's family would never get the closure they had hoped for, the breakthrough in the case did provide them with some measure of justice. After years of uncertainty and grief, they finally knew the truth. The person responsible for Nacole's tragic death had been identified. This revelation brought a sense of relief, though it was bittersweet. While Nacole's family would never have the opportunity to see Arnold face accountability for his actions, they could at least find comfort in knowing that the long unanswered questions had been answered. The discovery of Arnold's identity allowed Nacole's family to mourn in a new way, knowing that the perpetrator was no longer a shadow in the background, but a real person who had finally been exposed. Despite the tragic timing, it brought a sense of justice that had eluded them for so long, allowing them to begin the difficult process of healing, even if it came far too late. Number 5, the aftermath and the pursuit of justice. For years, Nacole Smith's family fought tirelessly for justice, never giving up hope despite the overwhelming pain and uncertainty they faced. The case served as a powerful testament to their unwavering determination and the love they held for their daughter. Through the darkest moments, they clung to the belief that the truth would eventually come to light, no matter how long it took. The breakthrough in the case, made possible by advancements in DNA technology, proved to be a game changer for modern-day criminal investigations. What had once seemed like an unsolvable mystery was finally unraveled, giving Nacole's family the answers they had been desperately searching for. While Kevin Arnold, the man responsible for Nacole's death, will never be held accountable in life, the identification of the killer brought some semblance of closure to her family. They had spent over 2 decades living with the pain of not knowing who had taken their daughter's life. Though they were robbed of the opportunity to see Arnold face justice in a courtroom, knowing his identity allowed them to begin healing, knowing that the person responsible for their grief was no longer a faceless phantom. Nacole Smith's case serves as a powerful reminder of the persistence and dedication required to seek justice, especially when time seems to be working against you. For 26 long years, her killer evaded capture, but the truth never truly slipped away. The case stands as proof that with the help of science, innovative technology, and relentless determination, justice can prevail, no matter how long it takes. It is a poignant reminder that even when the path seems lost, the truth has a way of finding its way to the surface. The case of Nacole Smith serves as a powerful reminder that while justice may be delayed, it is never truly forgotten. Though years and even decades may pass, the truth has an undeniable way of emerging. In Nacole's case, it took over 26 years for the identity of her killer to be revealed. But modern technology, specifically DNA and forensic genealogy, played a pivotal role in bringing that long-awaited resolution. This case shows how science and perseverance can finally provide answers that families have been desperately seeking for years, even when the system seems to fail them. Thank you for joining us as we discuss this heartbreaking and emotional case. Your support means a lot to us, and we appreciate you being part of our community. If you found this video informative and impactful, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your opinions on how modern technology is helping solve cold cases. Do you believe advancements like forensic genealogy and DNA testing will continue to uncover the truth behind many unsolved crimes? Let's dive into the discussion together. Until next time, stay curious, keep seeking the truth, and remember, justice may take time, but it will never be forgotten.